Today's so fun. Welcome to Muscle Science for Women. Ashley,
Hello.
Rachel, we're here to
What's up?
talk to you about the stuff that matters, right? Like muscles and
Muscles. Sleep.
food and sleep. How's your
Yeah.
sleep?
My sleep's actually pretty good. The last
How's
week I
your,
had the week before it was a little not good, but it's back. It's back to being good.
do you find when you, and I know the timing of this anyway, but you've been on like a little bit of a cut, you've been eating like a little
hmm
bit lower calorie. Do you find that that sometimes helps your sleep? Like it makes you a little more tired, or do you find it hinders it because you're like hungry? Because it
Yeah,
can go
so I
either
think
way.
yeah, it definitely makes me like I've definitely noticed because this is a little bit of more of an aggressive mini cut, so calories are definitely lower. Um I am pretty tired by the end of the day, so falling asleep is not hard, but I did notice I made like kind of we made an adjustment the week before last week where we really brought calories down a little bit more. And I did notice that I started waking up at like 4 a.m.
Mm,
And I could not go back to sleep for like 3 days in a row. And so I was like, oh crap. Like, because I noticed this before, like when I do some of these more aggressive cuts, but it tends to like my body like needs some time to adjust to that. So it's like a few days where cortisol spikes up. Also like blood sugar probably, especially because like some of those days the carbs are a lot lower. So having less carbs, blood sugar dips during the night and that can wake you up and then it can be harder to go back to sleep. So my body's
hmm.
just overall in a more stressed state. So it makes sense. But
Right.
um, it didn't last that long. So it's really just kind of like I need like a few days to adjust to that, and then it kind of re-regulates, which is good. Um, but yeah,
Good.
definitely easier to fall asleep, but sometimes there'll be some wake ups,
Hmm.
like early
Well,
morning.
as of this recording, you guys are going to be listening to this in the future, but as of this recording, I'm still pregnant. And so sleep is a little bit all over the place. But I will say, and I hope other pregnant women don't hate me for this, I wouldn't say my sleep is good by normal people standards. Of course, I'm waking up like every 90 minutes to 2 hours and like rolling over like I'm a dying turtle on its back or whatever. But I think my sleep isn't terrible because I'm just so tired. Like I'm just
hmm
so wiped out that I will, like, I
Yeah.
keep waking up, but I also will fall asleep. But one thing that I think a lot of pregnant people experience because of the crazy hormone fluctuations, I guess this is getting me ready for menopause or whatever, but like I will wake up in the middle of the night in like full sweats,
Mm.
just sweating. And I normally am like I tend to be more cold than hot person. And I'm sweaty as hell. So one thing that's been really cool is these new sheets that we got
hmm
from our sponsor, which is Cozy Earth. You guys haven't heard about this before. This is our new sponsor. We're pretty pumped about. They make really, really high quality sheets and pajamas and stuff to help you sleep. And they sent us some bamboo, which I think there's something about that the like bamboo fiber that's supposed to be more cooling or like
hmm
kind of lets the air flow. And it's been very helpful for me not waking up in a pool of sweat, which I greatly
hmm
appreciate. So glamorous being pregnant. But no, it's been really helpful, and the products are really good, very nice looking. Um,
hmm
I think that their thing, from what I can tell, since they reached out to us and we've started working with them, is like it's really, really high quality because it's good. It actually does what it says it's going to do. And it also feels so luxurious. Like I got a pair of their pajamas and the texture of the material. Like I feel like a rich person when I'm wearing them. I'm just like, oh my goodness. Like
Yeah.
this is so much better than the like tank top and underwear I'm normally like
hmm
wandering around, in bed.
Yeah.
Um, but I've been really impressed with the company. So
Yeah.
I'm very pumped that they reached out to us and they wanted to send us some
Yeah.
stuff and they wanted to give us a crazy discount,
hmm
which by the way is 40%. I don't think we've ever had a sponsor give us a discount that big before.
Yeah.
So the code's MSW. The website is cozyearth.com and go get some
Yeah.
cool sheets and some pajamas and like
Yeah.
treat yourself to something that's actually good for you, that's
Mhm.
like going to make you feel good every single night when you get in bed. It just kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah. And I mentioned this before, but I've been using Cozy Earth for years before they even reached out. So when they reached out, I was like 100%. Like I know even though it's a little bit pricier compared to like your Target sheets, which were the sheets that I slept on forever before I got Cozy Earth. Um, Definitely a huge difference there. But yeah,
Yeah.
I love all their stuff. Sheets, pajamas, towels, like they have a whole suite of products. So
Yeah.
check them out
Yeah,
for
it's
sure.
always cool when like companies reach out to us that we already know and like. Like
Mm,
most of our sponsors we've been aware of before we decide to like formally work with them. And it's first of all very validating that they found us and are like, we like you guys. We think that
mhm.
you have, are doing cool stuff. So we want to support that. And then also we're like, yeah, we literally already have your products in our home. We'll take
Yeah.
more, but
Yeah.
we have your products already because we like
Yeah.
them. So that's it. Cozy Earth. Go
Cool.
check out their pajamas and their sheets. 40% off. Code MSW at cozyearth.com. All right. Now that that's out of the way, let's answer some questions, shall we?
Yeah.
Let's talk about
Let's do it.
at-home scales.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Sounds
I
kind
like
of
this one.
this sounds kind of technical, but I think this will be
Mhm.
interesting. So Allie's saying she's a longtime listener of the show. Appreciate you.
Yes.
I've been seeing lots of ads and influencers in the health space posting about the Hume body scale. Is that how you say it? Are you
Mhm.
aware of this?
Yeah, I
Hume.
am aware,
Okay.
actually. They reached
Hume.
out to me several times.
Okay. I'm wondering if either of you know much about it, have an opinion on it, like its
Mm.
accuracy. I'm currently 38 weeks pregnant with my second child. Me
Oh,
too,
wow.
Allie. Solidarity, my friend.
Wow.
She's saying, I'm interested in the at-home convenience of one of these smart scales, but don't want to waste my money. Thank you for any input you have. And so again, the difference with this isn't just like a telling you how many pounds you are. This is like similar vibes to like a DEXA scan, like it's telling you your
Mm,
like body fat
yeah.
percentages and stuff like that. Okay. All right.
So, well,
So
it's similar
yeah,
to like an in-body scan, not necessarily a DEXA scan,
right,
because
right,
they're
right. So a step
different. Yeah.
down. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, just my opinion from the start is like, don't waste your money. And the reason for that is because even like in-body scans, I am just not a fan of because basically, and with this scale, what they're doing is it's sending like an electrical signal through your body. It's called bioimpedance, right? And it basically spits out numbers based off of that electrical signal, how fast it goes or how slow, blah, blah, blah. But this can be affected by so many different things, how hydrated you are or dehydrated, the amount of salt that you have, sodium, the way that you slept the night before. Um, did you work out or not? Did you train legs yesterday or 2 days ago? Like, there's so many variables that will shift the reading of this that it, for most people, and this is, I've had clients who have done in-body scans and have these like at-home scales that are similar to that. They tend to just make you really like, they tend to just be a mental burden because you'll see something like with the numbers that does not align with what your actual results are. So, in my opinion, and coaching, and even with myself, like I will use body weight trends over time, just normal scale measurements, body measurements, right? Taking measurements with the tape measure, pictures, right? Progress pictures, and then how you're feeling, how your clothes are fitting, those types of metrics. Those are the metrics that we use that will actually show us the results in the long term. These body fat scales, like to me, they just add so much noise to things and it's not worth it in my opinion. Um, yes, can they maybe show you some trends over time if you're doing them regularly and like maybe in like 6 months compared to now? Maybe, but so will all the other metrics that we're tracking that are going to be more like legitimate in my opinion. So, and yes, this company reached out to me like several times on Instagram, and I just kind of it's like, no, thanks.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's worth it. Get like a $15 or $10 scale on Amazon and track body weight trends over time.
I could not agree more. I think we need less things like this that just add to
Yeah.
stress and drama and obsessive behavior.
Yeah.
Um, and especially, she's pregnant, she's getting ready to do
Oh
like
yeah.
postpartum healing. Like this is the last thing you need to be
Yeah.
looking at on a regular basis at home. So yeah, I completely agree with everything you said. And yeah, don't bother. There's so many
Yeah.
other things you could be spending your money on.
Yeah, for sure.
That's our opinion. Okay.
Do
I have
you
a
want me to read the
question.
next one?
Oh, which you want to read? I have
Oh,
something
wait.
on Instagram
You have a
too, but hold on.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to
Sorry.
read? Yeah, we can do this one from
Kirsten?
Kirsten. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Sorry. I just saw that that was the last one you unboxed, so
Wait, did I read the last one or did you read the last one?
I think you read the last one.
Okay.
Or do you want to?
I'll read this
I'll
one.
just read it. Okay, you read it.
I know Kirsten.
Oh, perfect.
Okay.
Okay, go.
She says, it's always a pleasure to see a new episode out. Thanks for being here for the ladies. I'm always learning something new, but I love that you reiterate a lot of the same things because honestly, it has taken months for some of it to click and unlearn old habits.
Mm,
Yes,
I love that.
this is what coaches do. This is what the purpose of this is. We just hammer it into your brain until you hear it, until you start doing it. Love that. Okay. My question for you guys is about carbs and our menstrual cycle. I know biofeedback and listening to your body is the most important first and foremost, but what I've heard about applying carbs in the follicular and luteal phase is conflicting. I've heard that we're more insulin resistant in the second half of our cycle, the luteal phase, but I've also heard that carbs help with progesterone production and we function better by adding about 10 to 20% more of our caloric intake during the week of our period. So, can you explain why, if we're more insulin resistant during this phase, we would also function better with more carbs? Thank you so much. Congrats on the baby. Love you guys. Love you too, Kirsten. Okay.
Mhm.
So the question is, yeah, she's saying that's like a little bit, she's hearing
Mhm.
conflicting stories about being insulin resistant, but also carbs can help you, and maybe you should eat some more during this period.
Yeah.
We have talked about, you know, training and eating around your cycle on and off throughout the podcast. I don't know if we could do a search and see if we could find, like, if we put it in a subject, like a title anywhere, because we have talked about
Mhm.
this stuff. But what are your sort of initial thoughts?
Uh, I was gonna ask you that. I mean, I just think again, like it's gonna be just so person dependent and like there is some research on these things, right? Being more insulin resistant at different times of your cycle and things like that. But just like flat out, the people and the women that I work with, like there's so many other variables that contribute to this with like
Yeah,
training and life and sleep that I focus much more on those things. Like I've
yeah,
honestly tried to, you know, work in some of these things at different points, and it tends to just be way more confusing for the client. And then also, like, we're actually creating some negative things because now they're anticipating like, oh, this
yeah,
is supposed to happen, so I'm gonna do this. And like, if they don't feel a difference, and they're like, why isn't this happening? So it's just like, I just think it like focusing on the individual and maybe having some of these things in the back of your mind. If you are very, very well versed in this and you really have like checked all the boxes with everything else, maybe you can start to like play around with implementing carbs at different times to see how that feels for you during your cycle. Um, but in general, I would say that it probably just adds more confusion to the mix that we don't need.
yeah. And I also find too that like one of my biggest challenges working with a lot of clients when we're trying to dial in food is consistency, right? So again,
Hmm.
everyone's bored of this conversation, but the fact that you have to be really consistent for a really long amount of time for your body to adjust to something and say, okay, I see what you're doing. I'm going to react to it by losing fat or by getting stronger, by building muscle or whatever. There is so much consistency that needs to be happening. And it's so hard for a lot of people to do. And
Hmm.
so sometimes the biggest challenge that I have with clients for months and months on end is us kind of touching base and then being like, yeah, I kind of didn't really do what I was supposed to do this week. I
Yeah.
was kind of off. I kind of ate like more or less, or I forgot, or I did this or I did that. So then to throw on top of it, like, well, what week of the month are you in? Like, let's ramp up the carbs by 10%. Like, guys, like
Yeah.
just let's just major in the stuff that matters. And then
Yeah.
like to your point, like there may be a small percentage of people who are so compliant and so on the ball and so sensitive that this stuff could make a difference. The vast majority of us, it's
Hmm.
like there's a ton of work to be done in figuring out what your maintenance calories are, and then how to adjust that based on what your
Yeah.
goals are, and then to actually stick to that consistently enough to see a change in your body. Like there's so
Yeah.
many things that we could be doing first before focusing on this. Um, and then again, it's just the idea of like consistency over time. So a lot of people find that their cravings are quite significant. It's like that whole funny thing on Instagram of like, oh, I ate like 4 chocolate bars yesterday and then I started my period today. And I'm like, oh, there it is. Like, that's why. It's
Yeah.
like, so yeah, if you're feeling very strongly like I need to nourish more on this day, I'm feeling really hungry, I
Hmm.
need to eat more, you do it and then you pay attention to these trends over the week. Did you still hit your targets? Did you overeat a bunch? Did you undereat to compensate for that? Like all of this stuff. Just focus on consistency, doing the right thing most
Yeah.
of the time forever. And this stuff starts to matter less. So again, I
Yeah.
think you'll find people on the internet who are very big into planning their life and their food around their cycles. And I just think
Yeah.
that's not really our jam so much.
Yeah. And I also think too, like you said, it's already hard enough to stay consistent, like with, especially if you're trying to like dial in your food, or if you're going into a fat loss phase and you need to stay consistent in a calorie deficit. There's obviously different tools and strategies within that work for different people, but like just that in general is already hard. And like a lot of the women that I work with, like their goal is to change their body composition, right? Which is going to come like the shape of their body, which is going to come from training hard and lifting, weights and changing your body that way, and then unveiling that through, you know, whatever, losing some body fat. But I think that even with that, I would much rather, and this is what I recommend for clients too, is like figuring out, okay, how can I get consistent with this specific intake? And then if I need to maybe, you know, if I'm more like from a lifestyle perspective, I want to go out on the weekends and eat a little bit more. Okay, well, adjust, your week. So it's like, okay, maybe 2 high days, 5 low days. Or if I'm working with someone who, is more advanced and they're training really hard during the week, then we might have some days where and this is what I'm doing right now, where I have training day calories and rest day calories, where on training days I have more carbs. And on rest days, I basically just take out a chunk of those carbs, so calories are now lower, and I'm doing it that way, right? And so I think there's so many like things out there that people are saying like do this, do that, have carbs during this part, whatever. But I just think that, like you said, if you can't get consistent with, what you're already doing, adding more complex things into it is just going to make your life harder.
It's
So
just a distraction too. And
yeah, it's a
I see
distraction
that a
and
lot
just
with,
delays thing. Like, yeah, just,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, just
Anyway.
again, it just literally like helps you procrastinate. We all want to procrastinate from doing the
Yes.
like boring basic stuff that we know we
Yeah.
should do. And so we're like, well, hey, what about this like little fancy
Yeah.
trick over here? And it's like, no fancy tricks. They don't exist. Just do the
Yeah.
right boring stuff all day long. Okay, this is actually a good segue into a quick
Okay.
Instagram question I got. The question was, what is, and you would have a better insight into this. And I know we talk about this in our programs too, but they basically asked, what is a good like TDEE or like your total daily energy expenditure, whatever calculator, do you have a good
Mhm.
recommendation for one? Because there's a bunch you can find on the internet,
Yeah.
whatever. But is there one that you really like to help
Um,
people get their baseline of like maintenance calories,
yeah.
basically?
So I've actually like I don't even know, it's been so many years. Like I actually have one that I built out in Excel based off of the one that I've used. So I use that for clients in my group coaching. But I think probably the precision
Precision
nutrition one
nutrition one is
is
good. Yeah.
probably a good one. But
Yeah.
honestly, like it's all going to be a guesstimate no matter what. Like when we're using those calculators, like the TDEE, it's all going to be, it's going to spit you out a number, and one's going to spit you out one number, one's going to spit you out another. Like I would just kind of pick something and start,
Yeah.
because
Yep.
those calculations are always guesstimates. They're based off of like averages of big groups of people. Pick one, start, assess your data. Better off work with a coach who can actually help you with that.
Mhm.
So
100%. Yeah, you just need to pick one and get the number and then pay attention to what information it's telling you stick to it. And sometimes people aren't always like super honest, even with the calculator, right? Because it'll ask you like,
Mhm.
how active are you? And like,
Yeah.
how much do you sit around? And people are like
Yeah.
aspirational in their answers. And it's like, you got to
Yeah.
be deadly honest with yourself. And then whatever that number is, you need to go try it and pay attention and make adjustments based on
Yeah.
whatever it says. Because yeah, there's not going to be anything, AI has not come that far yet that like
Mhm.
something on the internet is going to be able to know you well enough to really give you that perfect number immediately. You
Yeah.
just gotta go with it.
Yeah. For
Okay.
sure.
Another question,
Cool.
and this one again I know is quite vague, but I am interested in your thoughts on this. This person is saying, if you have nagging minor injuries, and there's no detail on this. I don't know if it's just like, my knee kind of feels a little bit weird or my wrist feels a little bit weird, whatever they're asking. Should you wrap them when lifting or leave them alone if you don't feel pain when you lift? So I'm assuming this means they're aware that they have like a little something tweaked, but it's not bothering them when they lift. Should you take the extra precaution and wrap it or not?
Um, I mean, I think it depends on what you're doing. Like if you're a power like training for a powerlifting competition and you're squatting super super heavy and you want to feel a bit more stable by wrapping your knees in knee wraps or whatever it may be, or you're doing like Olympic lifting, I think that's fine. But like if you're just going to the gym, training like normally, you're not like competing or anything, you're not lifting like super super heavy weights for like one rep maxes and things like that, then probably not necessary. Um but I do, if some people just feel better from like a mental perspective, like having those things, and I don't think it hurts. And if you feel more confident when you're like going into a heavy squat because you have like knee wraps on, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But like, I don't typically recommend it as like a normal thing, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Like,
I
it's
agree
not
with you.
hurting anything. If it makes
Yep.
you feel more stable,
It's
have at
also
it.
like, again, that's such a vague question. It's hard to answer because it really
Yeah.
will depend.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. One last question. This is maybe more geared towards me, but always open to your feedback. The question, it's again kind of general. I'm not sure exactly what they're asking, but it's saying breastfeeding and losing weight. So the big topic around this basically is that the world seems to be breastfeeding women seem to be divided down the middle between people who are like breastfeeding is the best thing for losing weight postpartum. The weight just falls off when you breastfeed. Beautiful. It's like nature's way of
Hmm.
using up all that extra fat that you accumulated. It's great, whatever. And then there's the other half of people who are like, F you, I hate you, I did not lose any weight breastfeeding, and I'm super pissed at all these people who say, like, that's just the way to do it. Whatever. Like, there are people who it seems like it effortlessly happens, and then people who are like, I didn't lose any weight, I gained weight, I didn't lose any, whatever. That's what I
Hmm.
see in the sort of community. So I don't know if she's asking like, does breastfeeding help you lose weight or how to lose weight while you breastfeed? So I'll just say a couple things, kind of high level. Um, the thing about breastfeeding is that it uses up more energy than any other thing you do during your pregnancy postpartum journey. It is more energy to breastfeed than it is to carry a person around in your body, which also takes a ton of energy. So people often find that they are very hungry and they eat a lot more when you're breastfeeding because you're burning like it literally is something like 20% of your body's daily energy expenditure. Like that's more than any other thing that you're any other part of your body. You know what I mean? Like it's
Hmm.
massive. Um, so you are probably going to eat more. You're probably going to experience a lot of hunger. And some people can take that overboard, maybe. And depending on your body, depending on your physiology, depending on how much you currently weigh, depending on what kind of food you're eating, a whole host of things could have an impact on whether that is actually going to make you gain some weight while you're breastfeeding or not. I am very hesitant to tell anyone to track your calories, pay any overly amount of attention to how much you're eating, especially in the first like 6 months when if you are breastfeeding exclusively, like that's your whole job is feeding a human. Like you need to support your own body's functioning so that you can produce milk to feed a baby. So the
Mhm.
idea of like restricting, dieting, paying attention to calories, trying not to eat too much, like really does not sit well with me. I think that if there are people who are really concerned about like massive weight gain or they have a ton of weight from their pregnancy that they're not losing at all, like speak to your healthcare provider. But the idea of like immediately trying to go on any kind of restrictive diet really, I think, is a bad idea for most people. Um, with that said, it's the same thing with like pregnancy versus breastfeeding, where if you're hungry, you're doing extra work, you're building a person, you're making food, whatever, you're going to be more hungry. You can still be mindful about the way that you eat. You know,
Mhm.
people can use pregnancy as an excuse to eat every single thing that they find and all the junk food in the world and eat all day and whatever. And I'm not judging anybody. I've eaten a lot of cinnamon buns in the last 8 months, but you can make better choices. You can make more nourishing, whole foods, unprocessed foods choices. You can try to pay attention to that without being like in a diet mindset. And then my other piece of advice would just be as difficult as it is, because I'm in this headspace now too of like I can't wait for this baby to not be inside me anymore, and I want to like have my body back, and I want to feel
Mhm.
comfortable, and I want to lose weight and all that stuff. The first sort of initial 6 months or whatever when you're exclusively breastfeeding is just it's not the time to prioritize losing a ton of weight. Some of us will easily. I will say I lost weight pretty quickly. I don't know if it's going to happen again this time. I'm older, it's the second time around, but breastfeeding did help me. I did lose the weight pretty fast. And that was great. And I was trying to be healthy and all this stuff. And I think I did things the right way, but I also was not getting on a scale. I was not paying attention to how much I was eating. I was eating what I wanted to eat. And I said, there's a time and place for everything. And the time to try to get my abs back and be fit and have this goal weight in mind is not right now. It's later.
Mhm.
And I think that if you have that mindset, you will feel better. You will feel less judgmental of yourself. You'll probably have a healthier attitude to how you look and how you feel and how you eat. And you may also have an easier time with breastfeeding and have an easier time with your recovery because you're not obsessing over trying to just get skinny fast. So, again,
Mhm.
I've been there. I hear you. I understand that this is like a very contentious subject for people. But I think that the key things are that initial period of breastfeeding is one where you need to support your health first and foremost, eat enough, eat good food, nourish your body, make sure that you're healthy and taking care of yourself. And then as you start to transition, the kids starting to eat food, you're stopping breastfeeding, then you can start getting back into all the things we talk about if you're looking to lose fat. But
Mhm.
don't feel like you should be losing fat because you're breastfeeding. Don't feel like you should immediately lose all the weight just because you're breastfeeding. We're all different. Our bodies are different. We're going to react differently. Just focus on what's actually important. The weight loss can come when it's the time for that to happen.
Agreed.
There you go. Yeah,
I have nothing to add.
that was my rant. So, because it is that is one of there's a lot of, pregnancy stuff. Whenever I post on social media, I'm like, ask me some pregnancy questions and stuff. And I get a lot
Mhm.
of stuff. And like people can be obviously can be very touchy and people take things very personally. And there's a lot of very intense emotions and feelings. And I get all of that. This is a big one. This whole like breastfeeding makes you lose weight. Breastfeeding is horrible for losing weight. Like that people get real worked up over that one. So
Yeah.
um, I think it's just
Cool.
important to, prioritize, right?
Yep.
Time and place for everything.
Sweet. All
All
right, I
right.
think we did it.
We did it. We
Awesome.
survived. Thanks everybody for listening.
Thank
As always,
you.
I'm pretty sure that maybe we shouldn't say it, but I think we've hit a milestone. I think we've hit 100 episodes with this episode of
I
you and
think so
me
too.
podcasting together,
Yeah,
which is a
which is
big
crazy.
deal. We both
Yeah.
had podcasts, solo podcasts before. We're not new to this, but the fact that we have been doing this for 100 episodes, virtual high five,
Yep.
we crushed it.
It is.
I think we're doing a good job. I'm having so much fun. We're gonna keep going and we'll do something
Yep.
fun. This wasn't like a 100 episode like spectacular or anything, but we'll do something
Yeah.
fun like on social media. We'll give away some things. We'll do something fun to
Yep.
celebrate because it's a big deal. Not a lot of podcasts make it that far. So
Mhm.
we're killing it.
Yep. And
I do
it's
say so
fun.
myself.
I
It's fun.
enjoy it
We're
myself.
learning, you're learning.
Yeah.
Got some good laughs. We're so many outtakes that no one will ever see. It's amazing. It's good times.
Oh,
All right,
all
guys.
right.
Until next time, don't do
Until
stupid
next time.
shit.
Don't be insane.
Love
Love
you.
you. Bye.